So last week we got a brand new trailer for Pokémon Sun and Moon, which among other things revealed the names, types, abilities, and Pokédex entries for the legendary version mascots Solgaleo and Lunala. But this obviously wasn't the first time we had seen them. As soon as the game's box art was revealed, we all started speculating on what types these things might be, and once the first Sun and Moon trailer hit, there was one thing everyone was pretty damn sure about. Solgaleo would be Fire type. I mean, it makes sense, right? He's the mascot for the sun, which is literally a giant freaking ball of fire. Well, plasma, but we'll get into that a little more later. Not to mention his orange and yellow accents and sunburst-like mane. Subtypes were still up for debate, but everyone, including myself, just knew this thing was Fire type. Well, in traditional Game Freak fashion, we've all been made to look like morons. Turns out he's Psychic Steel. Steel! Meaning he's weak to fire. He literally melts under the effects of the very thing he represents. This has everyone losing their minds, and honestly, I can't blame anyone for that. Does this even make sense at all? Actually, yes. It took some digging, but I was able to find some pretty solid reasoning as to why Solgaleo is Steel type, and as a result is weak to fire. Let's start with this thing's name, Solgaleo. Now, as far as Pokemon names go, this one's pretty simple to break down. You've got Sol, which is Latin for sun, you've got Leo, also Latin for lion, and then you've got this Gal, which is almost certainly a reference to Galileo, who even has Leo in his name. Now, for those of you who are scientifically challenged, Galileo was the first guy to claim that the sun did not revolve around the Earth, rather it was the other way around. This was called the heliocentric theory, you know, like Heliolisk, the lizard who absorbs sunlight, and it was quite unpopular in Galileo's time. Of course, today, we know this to be a scientific fact. Well, the reference to Galileo has an interesting implication. Rather than name Solgaleo after, say, one of the gazillion sun gods or deities or something that represents the sun, he's named after a guy who made a discovery about the sun. So Solgaleo isn't meant to represent the sun at all, and as his dex entry states, he's honored as an emissary of the sun. He's a servant, a harbinger of some kind. Essentially, he's the sun's bitch, so it kind of even makes sense that he would be weak to fire. But honestly, that's not really enough to go on. Sure, he's not literally the sun Pokemon, but that doesn't exactly justify a fire weakness. Well, while we're on the subject of sciences, here's another little tidbit that I noticed some people pointing out. As I mentioned before, the sun isn't actually made of fire at all. It's made of plasma, which is a gas-like state of matter consisting of ions and electrons that have been subjected to vast amounts of energy. In the case of the sun, this energy is produced by nuclear fusion. On our quest to determine exactly why Solgaleo is a steel type, nuclear fusion holds some pretty interesting clues. Namely that the byproducts of nuclear fusion can be just about any element out there, including heavy metals such as iron. Meaning once again, Solgaleo doesn't represent the sun itself, but rather he's a byproduct of it, a small piece of something much greater. And that's all well and good, but in my frenzied quest to figure out why the Sun Lion would be Steel type, I discovered one final clue. I was reading Solgaleo's dex entry on the official Pokemon site over and over again, searching for something, anything that would help me make sense of all of this, when something stuck out. Something that essentially made no sense whatsoever. Solgaleo is known as the beast that devours the sun. Now, how could that possibly be true when he's quite literally the sun's bitch? Well, upon Googling lion devours the sun, I stumbled upon something fascinating. A lion eating the sun is a common symbol used in the ancient pseudoscience known as alchemy. You know, like Full Metal Alchemist. Oh, and did I mention that Solgaleo's ability is called Full Metal Body? By Galileo's beard, I think we found our answer! Alchemy was a medieval predecessor to chemistry that concerned itself with the transformation of one element into another, with the main focus being on transforming various materials into gold and creating some kind of elixir for immortality. The lion eating the sun, usually depicted with a green lion, directly correlates with the pursuit of transforming other metals into gold. The green lion represents a compound called green vitriol, which we'll get into in a minute, and the sun represents the gold itself. Lots of interchangeable symbols were used in alchemy to represent various things, and one that was pretty consistent was gold being represented by the sun. There's even a scene in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood where they talk about these interchangeable symbols. This is getting pretty damn cool, right? Well, green vitriol was a compound that, when reduced to its purest form, was a powerful acid capable of eating away any metal except gold. Today, this acid is rather well known as sulfuric acid, which can become green vitriol when combined with none other than the element iron. So the lion devouring the sun might seem backwards at first, but what it really represents is the relationship between this green vitriol and some impure metal, and as everything breaks down, the vitriol breaking down to become acid, and then the impure metal being broken down by the acid to become gold, the only thing left in the end is the sun. Solgaleo doesn't actually represent the sun as we know it at all, but rather it's a reference to alchemy, and by extension, the show Fullmetal Alchemist for some reason. This crazy sun-devouring lion was inspired by the green lion, this lion made of iron, which would consume itself along with any impurities, leaving behind nothing but gold, which is represented by the sun. It begs the question, will we see any other references to alchemy in Pokemon Sun and Moon? It doesn't seem like Lunala holds any major clues, but I could be wrong about that. One thing I've speculated is that the third legendary Pokemon for this generation will be some kind of bringer of an eclipse, possibly being Fire Dark type, making it effective against Solgaleo and Lunala. Anyway, now I'm just making wild guesses, but I hope this explanation clears up some of the things about Solgaleo's typing. Yeah, it's kinda silly that he's weak to fire, but at least Game Freak had some kind of reasoning behind it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I really enjoyed making this video. I love doing research on stuff and making theories and finding out cool reasons for stuff like that. And if you're new here, thank you for watching, and please subscribe to this channel or I'll kill you! Bye.